cab. Do you ever have that? Do you ever have, has that ever happened to you? You know, you use a Yango and then all of a sudden you realize a Yango, by the way, is a taxi service for those of you that do not know what a Yango is. It's a taxi service, honey. Oh, I need to fix that. I got to make sure the flag is right. Because, you know, if the flag's not right, nothing's right. That's my experience. Before I continue, as is my custom, and I will be with you directly. That's an old Southern term. You know, over there in the South, they don't say directly, they say directly. All right, here it is. I'm going to be with you in a moment. I just want to suss out the terrain, honey. I'm just trying to work out the landscape. Okay? Let's be clear about that. Well, I don't know. You know, I'm using my webcam off my laptop. They call it the True Vision. And I find that it's not so clear, you know, because it's a little dark. I mean, I'm a dark person and I'm proud of the fact that I'm dark. You know, I don't want you to misunderstand me. You know, we got melanin here and I love that. The only thing though is that I want to make sure you see me, you know. So here it is. A few shout outs from you, and then here it is. My mouse, all of a sudden, my mouse decides to act up. Prince says you're late. Am I? Prince says I'm late. That's, well, you know, sometimes that happens. You know why? Life happens. Here's my friend, Johnny. Hey, Johnny, always appreciate you, man. You know, there's certain people on Facebook that are good, positive constants. Johnny's one of them. Johnny's such a great supporter of the show and this broadcast, and as are many of you, you know, and I appreciate you so much. I really do. Somebody's watching us from where? Lusaka Central Park? Really? Wonderful. Thank you for being with us. You know, appreciate you guys so much. If we are okay, as we say here in Lusaka Central. All right, here it is. Guys, there's something I need. Thank you for the shout outs. Wherever you're watching me from, whether it be from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Incidentally, do you know that the word Baton Rouge, which is, you know, strictly speaking, it's Baton Rouge. It's a French word. Because, you know, the state of Louisiana was a French territory before France sold it to the United States. That's a long story. But anyway, the word Baton Rouge means red stick in French. And there's a whole big history behind why the capital city of Louisiana is called Baton Rouge. And the reason they called it Baton Rouge, you should research that. Amazing stuff. Whether you're watching me from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana, Plaquemine, Denham Springs. Have you guys ever heard of Denham Springs? Bossier City. Bossier, there's another one. I mean, you don't hear the name Bossier every day. Whether you're watching me from Kwakasomokuchinsadi, whether you're watching me from Kutwapia, Kumansa, Kumongo, Bogota, Colombia, Mitchell Plains, Cape Town, South Africa. You know, there's a place over there called Ghost Town. Ghost Town, South Africa, boy. There's a territory of terror over there. The police are not allowed to go to Ghost Town. I mean, the whole town is run by one guy. I forget his name. You know, lots of Cape Colids out there. You know what a Cape Colid is? It's colored people from the Cape. They're referred to as Cape Colids. And apparently that's not a slur, okay? That is politically correct to say Cape Colid. I've done the, listen, don't worry about it. I've done the research, okay? So I'm not saying anything alien, okay? Whether you're watching me from Cape Town, Mitchell Plains, Ghost Town, South Africa, welcome. All right, real quick. You guys know about this. This is a very brief reaction to Miles Sampa. Let me bring you up to speed. Miles Sampa, Honorable Miles Sampa, who happens to be a very dear friend of mine, and I love him dearly, him and his family. His family, they know my family, and vice versa. Miles Sampa, he used to be he served as mayor of Lusaka, the greatest city of Lusaka. He served, and once he was done, we have a new mayor, Miss Chilando Chitangala, who took over from Mr. Sampa. And Miles went on to run for member of parliament in his constituency of Matero, and he won. He won convincingly. Of course, his victory was questioned, but it was clear Miles won that election because he put in the work. He put in all the work, and they took him to court, and he won that case, and he was declared duly elected member of parliament for Matero constituency, Honorable Mauzi Sampa. Manje. Now, I'm sitting at home over the weekend, and I'm scrolling through. I'm sitting at home watching television, hanging out with the family, doing the family thing. And guess what comes across my screen? Miles Sampa posts, he says, I want a truce between SML and this crook, Sean Tembo. Again, let me bring you up to speed. Sean Tembo is a Zambian man that touts himself as a presidential hopeful. He ran for president in the last election. Not a single person voted for him. Not one. I mean, this is the most amazing thing. It's one thing to run for president and then a few people vote for you. But honey, it's a completely different thing when you run for president and not a single solitary person votes for you, which brings the question and which begs the question, well, what about his family? Are you telling me that there's no one in the Tembo family that could have voted for him? Are you telling me that there's not a single person from his region that could have voted for him? Are you telling me that there's not a single associate that could have looked at his picture on the ballot and said, you know what? He's a scoundrel. He's a skulldugger. God knows he's a crook. But you know what? I'm just going to vote for him anyway. Are you telling me nobody said that? Vane, zero. Why did you zero? Z-E-R-O. Zero, nada. The Spanish say nada. Over there in Spanish land, the word nothing, nada. Zero, zilch. Zilch is an American colloquialism. It means nothing. Zilch. So nobody voted for him, So here it is. He's on this big campaign. He's on this big campaign, this big crusade. He calls it a crusade of self-righteousness. Well, the truth is I call it that he calls it that. Okay, you'll figure that out. He's on this big campaign now where he wants to discredit the current president of Zambia. Now, here's my gripe. Okay, are you familiar with that word, gripe? Here's my complaint. It is in the public domain, okay? Meaning everybody knows about this. It's not a secret, it's not some type of clandestine operation. It's not something that has been swept under the rug. It's not something that people don't talk about. It's something that is in plain sight, meaning everybody knows about it. Sean Tembo defrauded the government of Botswana. Let me bring you up to speed. Basically, Sean Tembo was paid to do some work by the Ministry of Health in Botswana. He was paid to do that work, and a renowned professor there in Botswana whistleblowed and called Sean Tembo out and said, this man has been paid for work that he's plagiarized, meaning he's been paid for something that he forged. It was not his work. He took someone else's work, passed it off as his own, plagiarized it, and he got paid for it. It's like you, when you apply for a job and you forge your grade 12 certificate. The authorities, oh, Chite, grade 12 yakwe is forged. That's a crime. Do you know how many people have been arrested? There was a minister, this was during the PF. Correct me in the comments. Just remind me in the comments. Who was the guy? There was a very famous minister at the Ministry of, what was that? Was that the Ministry of Local Government? I forget his name. He was arrested because he had forged, it wasn't the Minister of Local Government. I think he was the deputy minister. Okay, it was the deputy minister of local government. Tell me in the comments his name. Who was that? Who was that? Was that, I don't want to say the wrong name because, I don't want people to say, no, that's not him. That's right. I think this was him. This man, thank you, Axon. The story was that he forged his grade 12 certificate. He forged it. In other words, he gave himself credit for something he didn't accomplish. He forged it. He was arrested. It's a crime to do that. Well, Sean Tembo did the same thing, except Sean Tembo plagiarized work that he was paid for. They paid Sean Tembo, but for work that he didn't do. He plagiarized it. To plagiarize means he forged it. He convinced them that this is my work. It's like you writing a book, but everything you did, everything in that book was from someone else's book. You write it, and then you say, it's your book. Those are your thoughts. Those are your emotions. You have forged, you have plagiarized. Well, Sean Tembo plagiarized this work, and he was paid for it. So what does Sean Tembo do? He turns around, he sues the renowned Botswanan professor for defamation. They go to court. Sean Tembo loses the case. When he lost the case, that's when Sean Tembo fled from Botswana, leaving behind a family, a Tswana family. He came to Zambia, started a brand new family. Now, my whole gist, this has got nothing to do, you must know this. And this is where you lose this in translation. This is where this gets lost in translation. Everything I'm saying has nothing to do with, there's no personal vendetta. I don't care about Sean Tembo. I don't even know the guy. So for Miles Sampa to stand up and say, no, there needs to be a truce. We need to get along. What? Well, Miles, you're oversimplifying the issue. Okay, and I say that to you with love. You're oversimplifying it. It's not about that. It's not about me getting along with Sean Tembo. I couldn't care less about Sean Tembo. I could give two bent pens in relation to who Sean Tembo is. I would rather speedboat through a sewer pond in the middle of October than to have to sit down with Sean Tembo. I don't care about Sean Tembo. I don't. All I care about is this idea that if you have a record of having defrauded a foreign government, and then you turn around and say you want to now become president, all I'm saying is that you should be asked to clear the air on the issue. Now, of course, some of you will, and I've seen this in your comments, but what about you? You were deported. I talk about that openly. Helen, I was a guest on Helen's show. She asked me that pointedly. I was deported because I overstayed on an expired visa. I gave an answer to that because that's what happened. I'm not going to run away from that issue. And mind you, it's only now that I'm able to talk about this very freely. I mean, there was a time I was very ashamed of that. But then I realized, you know what? It happened. So what? It happened. Yes, it was shameful, but it happened. I'm not going to run away from it. But here it is. Sean consistently runs away, which speaks about his integrity. And again, the comment that I'm reading a lot is, yeah, but Mwewa, a lot of these politicians, they have got questionable financial pasts. Are you saying that we shouldn't elect any of them? The moment you begin to think like that, the moment you begin to move away from the idea that leaders, people that place themselves, that put their names forward for leadership, they have to be held to a higher standard. We know nobody's perfect, but there's certain things that you have to, when they come to the fore, you have to answer them. It's like a person applies to be a bank manager, but he has a history of robbing banks. Are you going to sit there and say, no, but no one is perfect? No one is perfect. Just allow him to apply. After all, no one is perfect. Do you see how much of a slippery slope it is when you begin to think like that? Don't lose sight of the fact that leaders, I'm not talking about you and me, you and I are ordinary citizens, but those that put their names forward for leadership must be held accountable, must be asked tough questions, and must be held to a higher standards because they're leaders. A leader better know more than me. If I'm leading you, it means I know more than you and I am more competent than you. That's what a leader is. That's what a leader is. So if you fall short, there's a problem. There is. So basically, my reaction to Amao Sampa is this. When you say you want Sean and I to sit down and iron out our differences, you're oversimplifying it. I don't have a difference with Sean Tembo. And guys, don't buy into this lie that Nichimbuya. That's Sean Tembo's way of ukumishinga bata. That's his way of convincing you that, oh, this is not important. This is important. This is important. When you've got a, and of course, somebody will say, but why are you worried about Sean Tembo? He'll get zeros anyway. That's not the point. The point is anyone that places their names forward for leadership must be asked tough questions. That's all I'm saying. All right. That's it. Somebody says, start with the one that's there now. This is a good one. Wait a minute. No, this one. Wait a minute. Oh, where's that? Where's that? Somebody says, start with the one that's there now. And this is a comment I often hear. Okay, here it is. Start with the one that's there, who's there now, he says. And of course, this is a reference to President Hakainde Hichilema. And this is my point. Every question that Hakainde Hichilema was asked, he answered. Are you hearing that? He answered. He never dodged any question. He was asked the issue, the question on privatization. He answered that every single time. He was asked, how did you become wealthy? He answered that every single time. He asked, what was your involvement in the privatization process? He answered that every single time. He never once ran away from it. He never once shirked the responsibility off onto others. He never once dodged. He never once sidestepped. He never once bobbed and weaved. He didn't do any of that. He always answered the question. What's strange about that? Let me tell you what is strange. What's strange is when a potential presidential candidate is asked a question and he runs away from that question. Here's my challenge. On Thursday, this Thursday, Sean Tembo's going to have a press conference where he's unveiling some, I don't know what the heck that is. He's unveiling some quasi budget or something. Budget. Imwe ba tembo. Budget. Imwe kuti mwapanga budget imwe. You don't even have one person that supports you. Here it is, you're going to create a budget. Well, anyway, Thursday, he's going to hold some type of press conference over there at his house. I challenge any journalist. I will give 1,000 kwacha to any journalist that asks Sean Tembo this question. Why did you defraud the government of Botswana? Now, it's important that you ask it that way. Don't say, did you defraud the government of Botswana? He'll just simply say no and say, next question. When you say why, when you use the word why, you compel the person to begin to explain. He'll try to explain. That's what we want. We want an explanation. We already know the truth. We know he did that. But we want to know, from his point of view, what his explanation is, so that we can either say you're lying or you shouldn't be president or your name shouldn't appear on the ballot. Because those are the three things that are facing Sean Tembo. Number one, whatever explanation he gives verifies the fact that he is lying. Number two, he shouldn't be on the ballot. Number three, he shouldn't be running for president. Simple. Because we hold our leaders to a higher standard. I challenge any journalist. I would never go to Liberty House. I wouldn't do that because Sean Tembo would have me shot. I mean, literally, if I went to Liberty House, I've already done my part. I've already confronted him. So as far as I'm concerned, it's done. I don't have to keep asking him that question. Sean has already demonstrated to us and to the Zambian people that this is a question that he consistently avoids. So I'm not going to pursue him any further. I won't, because he's already shown us that, he's about dodging and avoiding, and that speaks to his character. And I guarantee you, if he's still around in 2026, they will ask him that question. And the clip, the clip of him running away, driving off, that is going to follow him for the rest of his political life. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not. Okay. So any journalist, for those of you, here it is. Somebody says, make it 2,000. No, 1,000 kwacha, because that's what I can afford. 1,000 kwacha. Okay. I will give any journalist 1,000 kwacha for you to ask Sean Tembo that question at Liberty House on Thursday. Ask him, say, Mr. Tembo, why did you defraud the government of Botswana? Ask him that way. Don't say, did you defraud? He'll simply say, no, I didn't. Next question. That's a trick. That's a trick. Ask why. Don't say did. Ask why. Okay? All righty. Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye.